trump all other considerations, such as the safety of the public. If a vital public interest makes it impossible for a case to be fairly heard, then the courts cannot ordinarily hear it. The appropriate response to the problem in the present case is for the deprivation appeal to be stayed or postponed until Ms. Begum is in a position to play an effective part in it without public safety being compromised.
Let's get some analysis with the international human rights lawyer, Toby Cadman. Sorry, Toby, international human rights lawyer, important. Thanks for joining us. Many people see this as a case of morals about a nation's responsibility for the actions of its citizens. But legally, how does it stand?
Well, the decision itself is only in relation to her being able to enter the UK in order to challenge the decision through her lawyers. Effectively, what her counsel, Lord Paddock, is saying is that they can't properly put her case forward whilst she's still in the being held in the camp. So for that reason, that obviously the appeal had been brought from the Court of Appeal. What that means now is she cannot be allowed to enter the country based on security concerns. And so the court had evidence from MI5 that she still poses in their view, still poses a threat. And as we've just heard from the President of the Court reading out the judgment, very clearly the security concerns have been taken into account. And so the process should be stayed until such time as those security concerns are no longer applicable, or other measures can be put in place to enable her legal team to put her case forward.
Was the court not delegated to pronounce judgment on what had been deemed already illegal, stripping her of her citizenship? Was that not part of this particular case, or should the court possibly have mentioned it as part of the case that the government was putting in its appeal that she presents a security risk?
Well, the main focus that they were being asked to address is that she should be entitled to enter the country in order to challenge the removal of her citizenship. Now, of course, the main thrust of that argument is that, according to international law, her lawyers are saying that she is stateless on the basis that she's had her UK citizenship revoked and that she cannot reasonably take up Bangladeshi citizenship, sort of the birthplace of her parents. So, of course, that is a central part of this case. I think it's unlikely that she's going to be evoking a great deal of sympathy because of what she is alleged to have done. But of course, her lawyers are saying that she can't possibly put forward that argument in court from where she is. So, you know, the two matters are inextricably linked, but it was the court was effectively upholding the government's challenge that to overturn the Court of Appeal that she should not be allowed to re-enter the country and make those arguments. And, you know, they're very compelling arguments that were made, and the court, the highest court of the land, has ruled accordingly.
What's the feeling in terms of international law regarding the thousands of people who are still in Syria or Iraq who never took up arms? That may not be the case with Shamima Begum, which she says is the case, that she was just there as a member of Daesh, but not actually doing any fighting. About the children who are there. And there are hundreds of children who are there born to Daesh fighters. And there are also women who are married to Daesh fighters who never took up arms. Is there a case for maybe setting up some sort of international tribunal to sort their situation out? Because particularly here in Europe, it seems that countries are extremely reluctant to take any of them back.
Well, considering we can't get consensus on setting up an international tribunal to actually hold those persons accountable for having committed war crimes and crimes against humanity, I think the likelihood of getting an international tribunal set up for something like this, where people have travelled to a conflict zone and unable to return, I think is unfortunately unlikely. It is very unfortunate that children who have been born in conflict or in a conflict situation have done nothing themselves other than being born in such a situation will undoubtedly suffer. I think what really needs to happen is that those who have fled whichever country they may have come from and gone to Syria, either joining armed groups or not, doing humanitarian work, some of them have. I think there needs to be greater recognition, and certainly there needs to be an assessment of each individual case. And somebody like Shamima Begum, for example, she should be, in my view, she should be prosecuted for joining a terrorist organization and participating in something that she still shows very little remorse for. So I think that there should be prosecutions, but of course there does have to be a way of allowing children who have been born through no fault of their own to return to this country, or whichever country it might be. But it's a very difficult situation, and we can't get any consensus on anything related to Syria and Iraq right now. So I think it's unlikely that that would happen.
Toby, thank you, as always. Really appreciate it. International human rights lawyer Toby Cadman.